What's up guys, Philip the Trade Genius. In this video, I wanted to kind of dive into the futures, the Bitcoin futures, kind of explain like when those expire and then how has that been affecting price. Sometimes you'll hear like, oh, the futures are expiring. In fact, the CBOE contract expires tomorrow, Wednesday. So wanted to take a look at the two different contracts that are traded by Wall Street and how that affects price. So let's dig into this video.
Trade Genius.
You guys, real quick, fall specials still going, little extension on those. If you get this $3.99, guys, I'm going to throw in the DTMM signal. So that's new for cryptos and it's been doing really well. You can also use that on like the futures and things like that. So it's pretty versatile, but it's been doing really well. And if you see Bob's video earlier, I think you'll get a good picture of what that can do. But if you get in really good value, and I'll tell the guys to throw it in if you grab that special there, $3.99, because I'm confident you guys will make that back in no time and be pretty stoked on the services that we provide. So anyway, just thought I would share that with you guys. All right, let's dig into this futures chart. So what I've done here, guys, is basically I've marked, we have two different contracts. We have the CBOE, Chicago Board of Trade, and the CME, the Chicago Mercantile Exchange. The CME I've marked in red because it's the big one. That's the big boy contract. The CME or the CBOE contract is a smaller contract. So I've marked that in yellow. So the next one coming up is a CBOE contract. And what I mean by smaller, it's just a smaller contract. So more attainable to say a retail investor versus the CME contract, which is like 5 Bitcoins in size. So you really need a lot in your trading account to be capitalized to be allowed to trade that contract. So mostly institutional guys are touching that. But anyway, the yellow line is what we're concentrating on first. That's the CBOE expiration that expires tomorrow, Wednesday. So the CBOE expires in the middle of the month. On a Wednesday. So whatever Wednesday is near the middle of the month, around the 15th, that's when it's going to expire. Sometimes that's the third Wednesday of the month. Sometimes that's the second Wednesday of the month. But the one nearest, like say the 15th of the month, is going to be when that expires. So you have that happening with the CBOE. And then the CME, which is marked in red, expires at the last Friday of each month. Okay, so basically you've got an expiration in the mid-month and an expiration at the end of the month on the various different future expiration contracts that they have. So they have them, they overlap different months. They have some that are long duration, but just know that we have every middle and end of the month, there's a contract that is expiring. So how does that affect price? Well, if we look at the yellow one, let's go back to April 18th, and you'll see price going down into the expiration and then back up. Following month, price goes down into the expiration and then it does bounce after that. Again, price falls down into expiration and bounces visually. You can see it bounces back up. July was an exception where we actually ramped into the expiration, a little consolidation, and then continued to rise. August comes down into expiration, has a pretty what we call a long wick on this candle, a hammer candle that's pretty bullish, and then what happens, we get a bounce post expiration. So always after expiration you see some positive price movement to the upside with a high degree of probability. So when you're looking at these expiration dates, you kind of want to know what the personality is going into them. And personalities can change, but you want to be cognizant of the fact that the tendency is to drop into the expiration, and then either the day after or up to 48 hours after, you start to see a move up. So, and again, we've seen where we've got a pullback down into the expiration, and then we'll see what happens tomorrow. But a lot of times that happens, and then we get a bounce. So just if you are short, you might want to be defensive going into tomorrow and after tomorrow. As far as like the day of the expiration, it's, like this was green back here in April. We've got red here in May, red in June, green in July, and green in August. So that the day of could be up or down, but really it's what I think is more consistent is what happens before and after. Okay, the next one is the CME, and again, we're just kind of looking back through recent contract expirations. This stuff is still very new, right? So, and the volume on the futures, I know a lot has been put into futures causing manipulation and things like that. I think the real place that's been an issue would probably be BitMEX, and BitMEX has had Bitcoin futures for a lot longer than Wall Street got on board with it, and their volume, quite frankly, dwarfs the CME and the CBOE. Now the CME, CBOE, the volume's picking up, but just keep that in mind that their volumes aren't quite to the level that we're seeing on BitMEX, but that will change, and I do think they'll grow quite a bit. I mean, there's a lot of traction on the Wall Street as far as custodianship and funds and things like that, but getting a little sidetracked. But anyway, just the volumes will increase. I just don't think those are really the sources of where you might say some manipulations taking place, or you see some weird movements that people might be playing off of futures expirations and things like that. Okay, so the red one is the CME. Okay, so this is the large contract. So we see back in March, we dove down into it, continued to actually see some follow through, and then we did get a bounce up after. Over here, a pullback into it, kind of chopped around, and then we saw a bounce up, but that was pretty choppy into it, and then after it wasn't like an immediate move up, although the next day was fairly a good sized green candle, but it was volatile because you came back down and kind of erased those gains and then moved back up again. Coming back into May, we see a dip down into it, some consolidation around it, and then a dip lower before a bounce. Coming into June, we see a dip down and then a bounce right off of. In fact, the low was put in right before the expiration day was just a big move up. Over here on July, pretty much top of that move. So this expiration here pulled back into it, and then we rolled over. That's kind of like that marked the top. This expiration marked the bottom. This expiration on the CME marked was close to a local bottom there, and this one was sort of close to a local top, but not like marking the top. But you can see where this has swung around there. As far as the contract here, at the end of August, we dipped below it, bounced after it, and then rolled over pretty hard. So if you stand back and you look like on the CME contracts, these red lines. Near a top here, right around a top here, right around a bottom here, near a local bottom here, near a top here. So I think when you go back and you look big picture on these things, I think the CBOE, the smaller contract, actually is more consistent about dipping into it and then bouncing right after, but more shorter term moves. And then the CME contract seems to have a little bit more, not that it happens immediately after the contract expiration, but they're within like that week or 4 or 5 days, you're near a top or a bottom. So that's kind of how I look at that right now with those two contracts. So thought I would point it out and show you guys, just like we hear a lot about contract expirations and manipulations, but now you can kind of see where they fall within the Bitcoin price patterns. I think there is definitely some playable movements around the CBOE and the CME. I think you have to stand back and look and see where that is in conjunction with price action, and that's with a larger pivot move in mind after the expiration date on the CME. So hope that helps. I enjoy you guys watching our videos. Please hit like and subscribe, and if you're on mobile, hit that bell, and I'll see you on tomorrow's video. Thanks for watching, guys. Take care. Bye.
Trade Genius.